Random question. Have you ever found yourself replaying a conversation before it even happened? Right? I mean, going over every word in your head, lining up exactly what you'll say, rehearsing that moment where this time you'll stand your ground, right? Am I alone? Have you done this before? And then when it actually happens, you hear yourself say, yeah, of course, I can do that. Yeah, absolutely. Why do we do this? Am I alone? Am I the only one? That moment you hang up, you feel it, right? That weight in your chest, that frustration, that anxiety, that little voice inside that says, why didn't I just say what I really meant? I was on the phone the other day with someone, and I've known this person for many years, and they were planning this big gathering. And before I even realized what was happening, I was saying yes to helping in ways that honestly did not work in my schedule. And the second I hung up, I knew that wasn't what I wanted. But saying no just felt so complicated, right? I mean, long-term relationships, they're really interesting this way. I mean, the people who've known us the longest, be it family, be it childhood friends, be it people who were there before we even knew who we were. I mean, they can be the hardest ones to set the boundaries with. There's history there, right? I got a message the other day from a listener, thank you, by the way, that really, really resonated. He said, I find myself feeling guilty, especially with certain people in my life. I want to be able to stand up for myself, but I don't know how to say what I feel. Do you ever feel like that? I do, completely. That feeling of guilt, hesitation, and uncertainty, it is so common because relationships with history, they come with many layers, right? Like years of unspoken expectations, roles that we've been playing without even realizing, like all the things. But here is the thing. The relationships that have lasted the longest, they should also be the ones where we feel safest to be ourselves. And yet more often than not, they're the ones where we struggle the most to say what we actually need. So today, we're talking about relationship guilt, the weight of long-standing expectations, and how to find the courage to say, hey, this is what I need. Because sometimes the hardest boundaries to set are with the people who have known us the longest. Let's dive in. I'm Chad Lawson, and let's calm it down in 3, 2, 1. So if standing up for yourself feels difficult, especially with people who have been in your life forever, there's a reason for that. And it has nothing to do with weakness. It has everything to do with conditioning. Did you hear that? It has everything to do with conditioning. Patterns put into place a long time ago. Because you see, the way that we interact with people, especially those that we've known for years, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's built over time. Every conversation, every moment, every subtle shift in dynamics, it's reinforced a role that we've been playing, whether we realize it or not. We were being told who we were before we even knew who we were ourselves, right? I mean, maybe you've always been the peacekeeper, the one who smooths things over, who makes sure that everyone is okay, even if it means putting yourself last. Or maybe you are the overachiever, the one who always steps up, who never complains, who never lets anyone down. Or maybe you're the one who just keeps quiet, because at some point you've learned that saying what you need just wasn't worth the fallout. And then when you try to step outside of that role, what happens? When you start to say, wait a second, what about me? It feels off, right? Because even though your brain understands that your needs matter, there's a part of you that's deep in your nervous system that still associates speaking up with risk. The risk of disappointing someone. The risk of making things uncomfortable. The risk of changing the way things have just always been. And that's where the guilt sneaks in. Guilt has just entered the room. Do you ever feel like this? I mean, guilt is tricky. Sometimes it's a useful emotion. It is. It lets us know that we've done something that goes against our values, what we believe in. But in long-standing relationships, guilt can also be a reflex, right? A response to breaking unspoken rules that were not really fair to begin with. Rules like, well, their needs come first. Or maybe keeping the peace is more important than how you feel. Or if you set a boundary, you're letting someone down. Have you ever heard or even thought these before? Sure, we all have. And that's why you might find it easy to set boundaries with certain people, but impossible with others. Because it's not just about the moment that's in front of you. It's not. It's about all the moments that came before it. Did you hear that? Because the thing is about long-standing relationships, they carry memory. Your body remembers every time you went along with something just to avoid tension. It remembers the moments when honesty just felt unsafe, right? Or when saying no led to hurt feelings or guilt trips or just complicated relationships and conversations and fallouts. But your body remembers every time you went along with something just to avoid tension. So when you try to set a boundary, it's not just your mind working through it. It's your entire system responding to years of reinforcement. So here, let's try something. If you are in a safe space to do so, please just close your eyes just for a moment. I want you to picture someone in your life who you struggle to be honest with. Maybe it's a parent or a sibling or an old friend or just someone who makes setting boundaries feel impossible. Now, with your eyes still closed, I want you to notice how your body feels. Do your shoulders tense up? Does your stomach tighten? Do you feel this urge to shrink, to make yourself smaller? Because that reaction, it's not random. It's your body recalling every interaction, every unspoken rule, every moment where silence felt safer than truth. Now I want you to take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, I want you to imagine releasing not the truth that you need to say, but the fear that's wrapped around it. Because here's something that we don't often think about. This version of you who learned to people please, to overextend, to silence your needs, that version of you was just trying to survive. But you're not that person anymore. Did you hear that? You are not that person anymore. You are allowed to shift. You're allowed to grow. You're allowed to be honest about what you need. You are. Okay, Chad, that sounds great. But how do we start? Everything sounds easy until we meet it like face to face, right? Well, some things to keep in mind that I think are helpful. And there's 5 if you want to write these down. First, self-compassion, number 1. Before you even start the conversation, you have to remind yourself, my needs matter. My feelings, they are valid. Because they are. Then number 2, start small. If the idea of a big confrontation feels overwhelming, don't start there. Start with something really small. Like how long you stay on a phone call, right? Or what time you agree to meet, right? Or something that is small that builds the confidence in you, that allows you to feel like you have some ownership. And then number 3, use I statements. Instead of saying, you always make me feel guilty, perhaps, I feel overwhelmed when I'm expected to change my plans last minute. I feel overwhelmed when I'm expected to change my plans last minute. This keeps the focus on your experience instead of making the other person defensive. And then number 4, get ready for it. Discomfort. Yep, it's going to happen. The first time you change a long-standing pattern, it's going to feel weird. It is. That doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. I'll say that again. It doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means that the dynamics of the relationship, it's adjusting. And guess what? That is a good thing. It's going to feel weird. It is, but only in the short run. And then finally, boundaries don't mean disconnection. I'm going to say that again. Boundaries don't mean disconnection. You can love someone deeply and still have boundaries with them. Did you know that? You can love someone deeply and still have boundaries with them. You can. In fact, boundaries are like what allow relationships to be real. Not built on resentment or exhaustion or some idea, right? So again, number 1, self-compassion first. Number 2, start small. Number 3, use I statements. Number 4, expect discomfort. And number 5, boundaries don't mean disconnection. So I want you to remember, right? I want you to remember this. Remember that call earlier, the one where I found myself agreeing to something that I didn't actually want to do? I sat there for a while, and then I called them back. Yes, I did. Hey, I've been thinking about our conversation earlier, and I realized I agreed to something that's actually going to be really difficult for me. It's going to be tough. I still want to support the gathering, but these are the ways that I can help. How was that? Was it awkward? Yeah, absolutely. But after, oh my gosh, I felt so much lighter. And that's what I want for you. The relief of knowing that your feelings and your voice matters. So this week, set one small boundary. Just one honest thing. Say one honest thing, because you deserve relationships that make space for all of you. I'm going to say that again. You deserve relationships that make space for you. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for living. And until next time, be kind to your mind and join me again as we calm it down. To find more episodes of Calm It Down, see where I may be appearing in your area, or just simply want to know where to send me some chocolate chip cookies, visit calmitdownpodcast.com. This podcast was written and produced by yours truly, Chad Lawson, composer, pianist, and nationally recognized sweet tooth. The views, expressions, and techniques in this episode are of my personal opinion and not intended, nor should they, serve as a substitute for medical advice or diagnosis rendered to you by your individual doctor or other healthcare provider. Only a licensed physician should evaluate your situation, provide a diagnosis, or render other medical advice to you. And you should only act upon the advice of this physician. Now, I'm an extreme empath by nature, but my profession is that of a composer and pianist, not a licensed therapist or physician. I hear from thousands of listeners how my music has helped them through various stages of emotional needs, and I simply want to offer this in future podcast episodes to aid those needs. So to find a list of licensed professionals in your area, please visit calmitdownpodcast.com. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review, or better yet, share it with a friend. While it takes less than 60 seconds to do, its impact will last for years to come, as every little bit helps in growing the awareness and the importance of mental and emotional health. Thank you for listening. Thank you for living. And until next time, be kind to your mind and join me again as we calm it down.